Senate Democrats threatening to block Senator Tim Scott's Justice Act from even moving forward in the U.S. Senate to debate. So they're not just threatening to vote against it. They're threatening to actually prevent debate on the bill, which is a police reform bill that they just don't think goes far enough on certain areas. Well, if they don't think it goes far enough, and we could get into that as well, why not propose specific amendments and explain those amendments during the debate? I know why. Because you like race for political purposes in election year. Race for politics, wonderful. Actual reform, why have you never seen any in Joe Biden's history of being in the U.S. Senate so long? Why didn't you see this done under President Obama even for 8 years? Why was criminal justice reform first done under President Trump? Major criminal justice reform. Why did it take an executive order from President Trump to get the ball rolling on this? Because the Democrats would like to just have politics with it. That's the truth.
The vote is scheduled to happen tomorrow. And remember, it's just a vote to proceed to consideration of the bill. It's not a final vote. There would be a process where anybody could offer amendments. But it really looks like Leader Schumer is calling the shots on this, Jordan. And that, quite frankly, I'm just going to say it like it is. He's choosing politics over progress on policy.
Their priorities, fortunately and unfortunately for them, matches pretty well with the president's priorities. And those two matches really well with my priorities and the Senate priorities on the Republican side. So now we're having to ask a political question. If you get 2/3 of what you want out of the gate, why would you change the rules and change the goalpost? It appears to me that if they follow their leadership, we will not have any discussion on the bill at all because they believe that police reform is a better election year issue than police reform is an issue to be solved for the vulnerable communities that started this entire discussion.
The reason why the left criticizes school choice is because they'd rather, again, continue to have political issues about failing schools in underserved communities. The reason why the left won't even have a debate on this legislation and is pushing not to have a debate is because Stan said it's an election year and they don't want a Republican president signing on to a major reform.
All of the common ground reforms that are in both of these bills are not going to happen if Senate Democrats do not engage this debate. Let me just give you 4 of them. Funding for police cameras. There's broad agreement in both bills that should be increased. That won't happen if a law is not made here. Making lynching a federal crime. Broad agreement in both bills won't happen if the debate is not engaged. Banning or reducing chokeholds. There are different methods in these two bills, but both accomplish largely the same end. That won't happen if this debate is not engaged. A reduction of no-knock warrants and reporting of those. Jordan, that won't happen if this debate is not engaged. So I go back to where you started. What is the only rationale for not beginning this debate? The only rationale that I can come up with, Jordan, is that one side of the aisle in the United States Senate wants this issue alive come November so that they can campaign on it. Jordan, that is a disservice to the people that they say they are trying to help.
We have a responsibility to find our common ground. But when we can't find our ground, we must stand our ground, and we must stand our ground to say no chokeholds, no racial profiling, no to no-knock warrants. That list goes on. Maybe there can be some compromise in some of the language and other aspects of the bill.
Okay, all of that, and Senator Scott has said this as well, all of that, Than, is in his legislation. They're not allowing a debate on law enforcement reform. They're not allowing a debate on body-worn cameras. They're not allowing a debate on law enforcement records retention. Justice for victims of lynching. The commission, as I just mentioned. Alternatives to the use of force. De-escalation behavior. National Criminal Justice Commission Act. Establish a commission to undertake a review of the criminal justice system. Law enforcement agency hiring and education. Best practices and studies.
The House bill and the Senate bill overlap by 60 or 70%. So what you would do if you actually wanted to achieve the House bill, you would agree to proceed to the Senate bill. You would offer amendments, just like you said, Jordan. You would see where the process worked out in the United States Senate. Then you would take the Pelosi approach. You would go to a conference committee. You would negotiate the differences, and then senators would have another chance to vote on the final package.
This would not be the final legislation that ever got to the president's desk, because you'd have to still work with the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives. There'd have to be compromises made on some of those disagreement issues.